All right, hey everyone, welcome back to the third episode of the Marlin Council. I am joined today by Taylor, Ben, and the newest member of the Marlin Council, Nate. Welcome, Nate. But yeah, we're going to be kind of doing like I guess, kind of a sequel to our Marlin is Solved 2 video, I guess. So we're just gonna get right into, I guess, the latest kind of Marlin developments and gonna just talk through some more puzzles, just some more deck lists, and then kind of just share our thoughts as well. But yeah, with that, I guess, how are y'all doing? So let's start. Nate, how you been?
Good. Just got to do a Sage event this weekend, so trying out some Sage. Obviously, I was focused on CC before, so it's a bit jarring.
Gotcha. Nice. Are you doing the showdown?
Uh, One of the battlegrounds, I didn't
Oh,
think I was gonna get in, but I got in on a wait list, so I'm like, oh no, I have to learn this format in a couple days.
Oh,
uh,
dude, it's easy. It's easy.
Yeah.
Taylor said just flip cards face up and until your opponent dies. Was that the strat?
Yeah, it's been working.
Pretty good. All right, Taylor, how you been doing?
I've been doing fantastic. The results aren't showing that, but my life is great. I'm having a good time. Uh, we just had one of my teammates top for the calling, which was great. So I'm really happy with all that stuff. But everything else has been pretty okay, I guess. How about you, Ben? How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty all right. I am stressed as all can be getting ready for Yokohama. Um, I am still trying to figure out what deck to play for Silver Age, although I think I've largely settled into a groove between two decks. And then I rapidly have voices in my ears telling me, no, actually, you should play like five other decks. But in terms of who I'm playing in CC, I mean, the title of this video should tell you. So I'm pretty excited for that.
Nice, sweet. And yeah, I've also been doing pretty well. Got some LL points for Marlin, which feels good. And I know Nate also did really well in the calling as well. So congrats, Nate, for your top 16. But yeah, let's go ahead and I guess get into the slides. So again, welcome, Nate. I guess the newest addition to the Marlin Council. So you've been cooking up some, like, I think like some of the coolest cards, just kind of over the past couple months of just like testing and stuff. Like I think you've probably tested more than most of us here, I think. But you've had some really cool cards like Unmovable, Fire in the Hole, like Pearl Amulet. I feel like a lot of those kind of like developments were kind of on you. But yeah, again, welcome to the Marlin Council. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, with that, let's just go into, I guess, some of the latest kind of developments, updates in Fab. Again, we got a brand new set coming out. We got a new CC BNR. How y'all feel about, I guess, Cilio getting shot in the knees?
Uh, it's it's cool. It's cool. I have like a whole rant about everything, but it's good for the game.
Yeah, I
The
feel like,
deck's kind of toxic.
yeah, I feel like CLV was probably a card that was not going to be living for very long. Like maybe let it
Mm,
ride, but like I feel like that one gets banned pretty quickly. Um, but yeah, some pretty interesting bands. And again, how do y'all feel? I guess just about like the new set in general. I know Taylor, you're kind of more of a lightning person.
yeah. I've had some success with Ocilio and Aurora before. Um, I think as a set is great. The timing is a little weird, being Rosetta is so close.
Yeah,
But outside of that, I mean, it looks like a good sets as we've seen so far. Um, there's nothing like I think it's kind of funny that they've reprinted Aurora essentially, except for just added like one extra side quest to her ability. And then the other two heroes are essentially brand new because uh Brocilio or whatever you want, Swolsfilio, whatever you want to call him, is essentially a brand new hero that we've never had. And Ziggy is just going to be either the best hero in the set or absolute dog water. We'll wait and see which one it is. I'll be very surprised if the hero's middling. But no, I mean the set looks fantastic. I like the heroes, the aesthetics very nice. I like the extended art cards. I have no real issues with the set. How's everyone else's opinion on it?
I've got something I'm pretty excited about in regards to Ziggy. And it's specifically in regards to the fact that they banned Phantom Tide Moth. That just speaks to me that there's going to be some card in this set that's printed that basically says remove counters from all auras you control amp X. Is just like what goes in my head. And so that would make Phantom Tidemaw a huge problem because it just gets +1 counters. So my whole reason here is Ziggy puts I forget the name of the counters.
Hollow.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so Ziggy puts Spice and Wolf counters on his auras. And I assume that there is going to be some interaction, some effect that allows him to interact and remove hollow counters to do other things.
Yeah, I think that I'm kind of excited about the set if they take the design in like a more interesting direction. Like if it's like less red line lightning, I think I'm like that's kind of like my biggest problem is like I feel like they could open up like the card design a lot if they kind of like want the heroes to pitch a little bit more. I think that would be interesting. But I think I'm like hopefully optimistic about the set. But yeah, Nate, anything to add before we?
Yeah. I think from a limited perspective for like US Nats, that I'm pretty excited because it reminds me of like the High Seas or MST format with 3 heroes all sharing 1 talent or 1 class. So that'll be interesting. From CC, I just see lightning heroes. Yay, more heroes that can't block. That's all I want.
Yeah, definitely maybe a good sign for Marlin. Again, depends how Ziggy ends up being, but overall, I think it's going to be. Actually, I think like I was initially kind of down on the set, but I think I've kind of come around to be a little bit more positive, I guess. But we'll have to see. But anyways, we just had 2 pretty big events. So we had Calling Montreal and Memphis, which I think you all attended in some capacity. I forget who attended what. Um, but yeah, I think Taylor went to both. Taylor went to. Nate also went to both, and then Ben, did you do both as well?
Nope. I just went to French. I went to French-speaking Canada because fun times.
Yeah.
And I was unable to make Memphis because scheduling conflicts.
Gotcha. Well, so let's I guess start with Montreal. So that's one that you all 3 went to. So I guess tell me a little bit about that event. Like I think we all brought Marlin, and I think that event. I think Memphis went a little bit better for us, but like tell us I guess about how Montreal went.
It was very cold.
Very
That was my
yeah.
first.
It was raining too, a
Oh,
lot.
yeah.
Yeah. We actually are trying to avoid the the Marlin talk with this one. So we're just talking about everything around the event.
Yeah, that's fair. Um,
Oh.
so I guess like how Ben, why don't you start us off?
Sure.
How did you feel? I guess bringing Marlin to that event. How did you do? Like, what were your like matchups? Like, how did the deck feel?
So stop laughing, Nate. No. So in Montreal, obviously I brought Marlin. I ended up going 4-3. Ended up going 3-3 with a final victory in garbage time. But round 1 paired into an Acilio. Won the game because Acilio is a really favorable matchup in my opinion, at least. Just don't play into the wobble and things.
Yep.
Round 2, I paired into a Puffin. We got deck checked. I proceeded to have a skill issue of not being able to shuffle well after the deck check.
Oh no.
It ended up being Boost Puffin, and I lost the game to myself rather than my deck. There was a turn sequence where I could have sent a Redfin or a Kraken with a Catch of the Day on it. I elected to send Kraken because it was an increased damage threshold, and if I take the blue resource card out of their hand, they don't have a turn. Without pausing to say, but Ben, if you have Redfin, if you take 2 of the red cards out of their hand, then they definitely don't have a turn. And then I ended up exploding to Dovetail into Palantir. So lessons learned. But yeah, round 3 paired into Slippy. We won that. Round 4 paired into KO, Yukili Bender. We lost that game. She managed to utilize a Fearless Confrontation as an evasive leap to blow me out. Play to your outs, everybody.
For sure.
Round 5. Wow, I'm sorry. I am at this point starting to forget the rest of my matchups.
It's okay.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Just
It's
what
called
were the
repression.
vibes?
Called repression.
Yeah, no, but all in all, I felt pretty happy with the deck. I wasn't upset with any of the cards that I had brought overall. Um, I just wish I had sat in the portion of the bracket that had all of the Jarls, because I think we would have had a little bit of a better day.
Fair. All right, Taylor, you're next. How did Montreal go for you?
Wesley Dong gave me the dong round 1.
Unlucky.
And put me in the goober bracket with some victors. But I had a good time. I got to beat a Mario at some point, I think, and I beat a Tough Nut, which is, I guess, a matchup you can play.
Yeah.
But variance really got me. I kind of just I'd go second. They would attack me on turn 1, and my hand would be and I'd throw caution into a red, and I'd just be like, I guess I die, dude. Yeah. But I think I went 4-3. I got to fatigue a Dio at one point, which was using the new trench tech that we've been playing, and I really enjoyed that. I felt very smart when I got to pitch. I was like, oh, I'll block 13 off of one card, and they're like, oh my god. And you're like, see, Compendium is broken.
Yeah.
But other than that, I had a good time. My losses, both my losses, one of them was to KO, the other two were to Victor. I had Staunch. Once guy staunched me for 10, I knew it was an uphill battle. But I had a good time outside of that. How about you, Nate?
Uh, it was interesting being the first event after Cope. I didn't feel like the deck list was all the way there. Like there were some small optimizations, but I was pretty happy with it. Um, I started out 4-1, played like mostly favorable matchups. The loss I had was to Ira. Um, I ended up blocking weird to make them IP and even bigger than that, which not a ton of Iras are on, but they had said they'd just come back to the game, asked what Overpower did, read my hero and stuff. And then I draw up a hand that has an Ataya, and they send a CNC for 7, and I just lose like everything. Like I can't block it properly and still take a turn, and then they're able to start to come back, and they're on Flick Flax and all the 0 for 9D reacts. I'm just like, okay. But 1-3 in a row after that, get to the last 2 rounds and lost both of those. One was to Mario, one was to Dash IO. It's kind of a mixture. Mario's always a tough matchup. So definitely losable, but that was my fault. I looked at a hand and it just had everything like Savers, uh, Tarantula Toxin, Orb Weaver. I know he's got another T-Tox in Arsenal. I'm just like, what do I pick here? Like all of these mean death for me, and I think I chose the wrong one. And then in Dio, got deck checked because that happens to me every single event. And then I didn't draw a red until the game was over.
Oh.
We were really close. But I went for my final, I need to kill him this turn, crack down all my gold, and just hit red, 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 yellow, whatever. That was really frustrating because both those last 2 rounds were win-ins for day 2. The entire event, the only thing that came in and out of the sideboard was Ataya in 7 rounds. And I didn't like Ataya when I brought it in. It got me killed against Ira. So I was like, okay, we've got lots of flex space. That's a positive. But overall, I was pretty disappointed with not making day 2 there.
That's fair. Yeah, unfortunate that we had 2 losses to not shuffling after deck checks. But that's how it
Every
goes.
event.
Every event, yeah.
Every calling.
Gotta happen. But yeah, between Montreal and Memphis, we also basically had 2 heroes LL. So Montreal is a very different event than Memphis. Like we had Verdance and KO in Montreal, but in Memphis, the meta kind of shifted in this very weird direction. Like lots of Vin sets, lots of tech lows. I think what else? I guess Victor also on the rise. Tons of really interesting decks. So I don't know. How do you feel? I guess the meta shifted between the Montreal and Memphis.
Losing KO is kind of a big deal because that was my one free win every calling was I would get to sit down from a KO, and I was like, cool, I'm starting every round with 1 win against KO. Same for RTNs and ProQuest. So we don't get that freebie anymore, but maybe they've been replaced with Teklo, so it's fine. Verdance, I don't feel like that much really changed. It's one less matchup that could high roll us going first, so that part feels kind of nice. But overall, it was a good matchup for us. So I would have been happier to play against that than say something like Mario.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's very fair. I think I do miss the burdens and KOs a lot, but it's almost weird that like you have other decks that you can now kind of like prey on, like Vincent and Teklo's doing better, which is weird. Um,
For
Yeah.
sure.
but yeah, Taylor, Ben, any other thoughts?
Nah, nah, dude. But the vibes were immaculate both times. I actually thought that the field would be a little bit better for Marlin in Montreal,
Hmm.
but as we've seen, we had a better Marlin outcome in the most recent event in Memphis. So I guess I was wrong on that one.
But yeah, in the Calling Memphis, we actually had two Marlins that were doing actually really well. So we had Chandler, who I think got 11th, and I think Nate, you got 14th. So I think you were both actually had like pretty different lists. Like Nate, I think you were on a bit of like so you're on a very Nate deck list, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But I think that you probably put like just so many reps onto the hero that like I don't know, you have like the coolest deck choices I think out of most of us here. So I guess Nate, tell me about I guess how calling Memphis went for you. Like how did the deck feel, and I guess talk a little bit I guess about your spread and your matchups.
Yeah, overall, I'd say it was a pretty good spread. Um, Day one, I lost to a Prism, but I basically thought that they were going to present Heralds into me, and I'd been prepping, basically expecting that. Um, I know how to deal with the auras, but wouldn't put them on auras until day two. And then they opened a double parable, like back to back turns, and I was like, why is that still in your deck after KO's gone? But it was really close. Didn't have any AB in that matchup, so I ended up getting grinded out by like their third whatever the yellow aura is, the merciless that pings you for one at a time.
Mm.
Uh,
Hmm.
dug for throw cautions so that I could attack through like the spectral shield and still get them, but couldn't get to my pitch in time. But Prism it can go either way, especially when you don't know what config they're going to be on or what kind of aura choices, even if you know they're going to be on auras. If I could go back and like play it again, I would board in the barbs, and then I don't think I would have had a problem with it. That plan also comes with Trench, so I would have been able to AB if they did get off to try to machine gun me with that. The other loss, what was my other loss they won? Ah, yes, no wonder I scrubbed it from my memory. So round three, I played against Andrew Lorenz on a Cilio, and this weekend I had trimmed on a Spell Void Quiver because I wanted more space for Gravy Bones and the Fatigue decks that we like knew were going to be popular going into that. And I really wanted 3 slots for Gravy, so I said the Quiver will come up like 1 in 5 games. That game just won't happen to me. Um, the Quiver didn't really end up mattering. They just opened Sigil of Brilliance, Gone in the Flash in the Arsenal. We
Pretty
still had a
good.
game after. I was almost able to get there, but Angela Ren's very good Cilio player, and um, they got me by exactly 1, and I didn't have the Quiver to save it.
Yeah.
um, I was a little disappointed. I don't like losing to a Cilio, but it didn't really get to me because I had made the choice to cut the Quiver and knew, okay, like this could happen because I've done this. Um, I beat another Acilio, a Teclovossin, a Mario, the one of Riptide, which was a great guy. Fi was my winning in for day two. That went like most Fi games do. Uh, I only won 2 dice rolls this event, and one was into the Prism, and I lost anyway. So Fi 1 went first. I used Honing Hood, got him a bunch, used the mini fridge, easy peasy. Walk day two. In day two, the only loss I took was to the one of Dory in day two. They been playing Dory for a while, tough matchup, but both their jagged edges lined up with 2 throw cautions for max value on top of everything else that was going wrong that game.
Yikes.
Oof.
So that was kind of crazy. I got to a spot where it was like 6 to 23, and they've got like one counter on Dawnblade or something. And I'm like, okay, well, and I'm talking to my opponent while we're doing this. I'm like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure if I take a safe line here, I just lose the game. And my hand is Three Oak, Pump, Codex, nothing in Arsenal, and I have Tunic on 3. So I just play out both the pumps and Tunic and say we hit. Maybe we get to keep playing the game in Arsenal and Codex. We did not hit.
Oh, unlucky.
But I was able to win the other 4 games, so 4-1 on day 2, taking out Vincent, Dash.io, another Acilio, and Syndra.
Awesome. Well, congrats again on the run. I think that's probably one of the best calling runs. Again, like you and Chandler kind of have like a very similar record. Like I think that's probably like the best calling run we've had so far, which is awesome. Again, it kind of shows a lot of the time that you kind of put into practicing the deck and also just kind of like tinkering with things.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest thing for me. Like, obviously, top 8 is all anybody cares about. I didn't top 8, but everything went as I expected it to. I wasn't surprised by anything or like scrambling on the fly. So it just felt really good, clean, just like I practiced.
Nice. Awesome. And then Taylor, you're also in Memphis. So I think your original plan was you were going to try to play Fi in Memphis because you wanted a little bit of a little palate cleanser. But you actually, I think your Fi connection maybe fell through and then you had to play Marlin. So tell us how that went.
Okay, actually, I had the deck. I'm not gonna lie. I had the deck in hand at 8 o'clock, 8:15.
I
Nate
saw him
comes up.
sleeving it.
Yeah. I'm sleeving it. Nate comes up, gives me the blood rot and the codexes. And yeah, I was like sitting there and I'm panicking. I got like my team and my buddies around me telling me, Taylor, you should just pick a deck. And I was like, I don't know, what deck should I play? And I asked one random dude. And the random dude goes, dude, you're the Marlin guy. Why are you asking me? And I was like, okay, I guess we're locking it in, baby. We're locking it in. And so I locked it in. Round 1, Naive. I'm like, oh my God, he might be on Fi. I got this. He's not on Fi. He's on Kasai. Like, shit. This is not what I wanted to see from him. He then proceeds to play like this super defensive, low to the ground Kasai deck, where I think he had 12 D reacts. It was just I couldn't get over the top of him. I then proceed to go 3-0 in the next 3 rounds. I'm 3-1. I'm looking good. I beat like a Dory in there, a Slippy. I'm like, oh my God. Dude, I beat a Dory. I'm a gaming god at this moment. Dude, I find Sam after the round. I'm like, man, I'm going to win the calling. I look at my phone. Jacob Clemens. I was like, shit, I'm not winning the calling. Okay. So I play against Jacob. We have a great game. Only one bad thing happens in the whole game is the reason I lose the game. At least that's what I tell myself. I look at his hand. I forgot what I swing with. I think it's a bluefin. His hand is toxin. Was it blood? Savor, bloodshed. He's got tunic up, and he's got a glycerin. I was like, oh my God. I draw my hand up. I have Ophidia, bluefin, yellowfin, three oak. I'm like, I can't even block this. There's no, I don't have gold at this time. I was like, I have to play this 3 oak, but I can't actually block this Glycera. So like I just have to take it to the dome.
Yep.
So I take it to the dome and I lose because of that. I wish I didn't know what his hand was, so I had a bad beat. Like I wish I didn't see the toxins. So I'd be like, oh, he just had the toxins. I literally saw them.
Yeah.
Then I get paired into Eugene. So I'm like, oh my gosh, Naive, Clemens, and then into Eugene. Eugene, of course, like a gamer, I go first. I hit him for some damage. He goes to like 35 or something. He blocked with like a yellow pummel. Like, okay, oh my God, we're in the dumpster too. Okay, that claw band's really in Eugene's head. I can see it in his eyes when he reveals Ballbuster Savage Claw. I'm like, this is awful.
No.
So we're playing our game. I hit him. He goes, hold on 1 minute, Taylor. And he tanks for 5 minutes. And then he just throws swing big. And I was like, oh my God, let's go. So I block a card. I swing some damage at him. He reveals his hand. It's kind of garbage. There's like a blue pulping in there. I was like, holy shit, this is
what we're
a
doing
deck
now.
list I've ever seen. He goes, from Arsenal, Blood Rush Bell. I was like, you son of a bitch. And he sets me to like 19. and I just can never come back. So I decided to play the next round because I like to have a good time and talk to people. It's this guy's been sitting beside me all day. Like he's been losing the same rounds, winning the same rounds as me. So he's beside me all day. We're talking, and I finally pair into him, and I totally forget what hero he's on. I was like, "Oh man, what are you on?" He goes, "I'm on Valda." And I was like, "I'll go kill myself. Thanks, man." So we play a game, and it's relatively close for a Valda Marlin game, in my opinion. It's relatively close. Like I got him to like 6, and I had lethal the next turn, but he had like the dominate kill me card. But I had a great time in Memphis. Like it was a great time. I got to see all the boys. I got to sigh out myself into playing Marlin after I was gonna play Fi.
Yeah.
Dude, it was a eh, and also I got to see everyone do so well, you know? Like I literally watched I think I watched every game of Nate and Chandler's because like I did day 2. What am I gonna do?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna watch them play. I don't wanna play Sage. You see that thing? Oh my god. I don't wanna play that. I just sat behind him every game and just watched. Except for Nate. I didn't watch Nate's game because he got paired into Dory. So I watched everyone else's. But it was a great time.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I haven't been out to Memphis, so I've heard good things though. But yeah, I will say that Jacob Clemens is a monster. I think he also knocked me out of calling Seattle. I think like round 2.
It's okay though. He was super nice. I
Yeah,
love that guy.
yeah. He's a menace, but he's like the nicest menace that I think I've ever met.
Yeah.
Cool. But yeah, thanks for the, I guess, recap of calling Montreal and
Woo!
Memphis. So yeah, with the calling recaps, I guess, out of the way, I kind of wanted to jump into a couple different deck lists that we've kind of collectively been working on. So I think I have 3 deck lists kind of picked out for us. But I wanted to kind of start with just like a little bit of a conversation starter. So pre-compendium, I guess, like, what did Marlin kind of look like? Because I have like this very interesting image in my mind, and I think this is the first video we've done since compendium released, and we've obviously got a bunch of new tools. Um, so I think like the old lists, they used to be running like take game, premeditate. You're on like pretty light amount of blues, like 32 blues, something like that. Um, you're running things like Codex of Blood Rot, Lone Shark, like those old lists. I guess in my mind were kind of like this, kind of almost like thing that just kind of came about because the card pool was kind of like bad, and we kind of had to like play very differently. But Compendium gave us a lot of new tools. So I guess how do y'all feel? I guess about like what Compendium did for the deck and like how the deck kind of changed post Pen.
Cheating Scoundrel is really good.
Yeah, that card.
It's a pretty messed up card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably one of the best additions to the deck. Like it basically replaced the 6 reds we were running, which is kind of crazy. Um, but yeah, that card is a house, blocks 3 red, super awesome. I think what else we got from Compendium.
Yark.
Dark, also really good. Just having
Mini
another
fridge.
harpoon.
Yeah. Mini fridge.
Yeah, mini fridge also very sweet. Ben, why don't you explain to us what the mini fridge is for those of us who maybe haven't been in the know?
Okay, so mini fridge PM is a thing that I know a lot of people had been talking about. I think what back in first Montreal when we first saw Trench of Watery Depths spoiled. Pretty frequently the question that I heard a lot of people say was, why am I ever pitching on my opponent's turn? What am I going to do? Play like play an unmovable? Um, and then we're sitting around and banging our heads against the wall. And then I get a message from Nate. And Nate says, "Hey, Suda, are you tired of running bad cards in your deck?" And then just sends me a picture of Quick Dodge Flexors and Trench.
Yep.
Now, what this card allows you to do is pitch a blue on your opponent's turn. And in conjunction with Quick Dodge Flexors, allows you, with just your equipment, to effectively cover 8 damage across 3 chain links without having to give a card from your hand.
Yeah, which is very, very powerful, especially into most of the aggro decks like Dio, Basilio. I think it's also quite good. I think other Phi, I guess, but like Phi's whatever. But just anything that can go through chain links wide, getting 7 value on your equipment, it's just really, really strong. but yeah, like I feel like the list really did change a lot, and it's not just like the new cards that we added to the deck. I feel like the kind of ratios of the list also kind of changed. So like we went from a very like light blue like 32 list to kind of more of like a heavier blue like 36 blue list for like more consistency.
Yeah, yeah. I think another addition that we've been seeing a lot with Marlin is that the blue base is actually being changed a little bit to more playable blue, so you can play them out
Yep,
pre-arrows. Like a big addition to that has been Shifting Tide.
yep,
That's a really big change that came along. Shifting Tide allowing you to pretty much like when you're popping gold looking for a buff, it's like almost like a saving 3 resources for the next turn cycle or 2 or 3. It's actually like 2.4, but
yeah,
um and then cards like essentially what you always wanted to do is instead of looking for red buff, you want to actually it's okay drawing these blue cards now. So that's kind of where we were at with the deck and we got it to a good spot, I think.
yeah. I feel like the deck just feels very smooth now. Like you're not just having those like Marlin hands where you're just like staring at a bunch of reds and your deck doesn't work.
Yeah, I think I activated cannon every turn.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing that we're trying to do is just activate cannon as consistently as often as possible. All right, but yeah, let's go ahead and start with Nate's list. So again, Nate got to 14th place at the Calling Memphis, and you've been working on this deck list for a while, Nate. So why don't you kind of just talk us through, I guess, like the deck, how you kind of think about it, and also just kind of like the card choices and like decisions, I guess you were making.
Yeah, sure. So kind of like you guys just talked about a little bit. Um, this list is just an iteration on what I was working on post Pen and what I played, or pre Pen and what I played before Pen came out. The ratios and all the cards are exactly the same as before Pen, and Pen essentially upgraded the cheating count scoundrel slot used to be fire in the hole. Cheating scoundrel became the pump of choice because it's cheating scoundrel. Yark was able to replace the Loan Shark or Riches, some combination of those cards that you would run in that yellow slot, and everything else was able to just stay the same. Something important Taylor brought up, though, is that most of the work since Compendium has come out has been on the blue base. Because Compendium kind of locked our red and yellow slots, and we no longer had to run as many arrows now that we like random blue arrows just to get the arrow count up. We actually had our 18, we're good to go once we got Yark. So my focus, whether it was for Montreal or for this, has been iterating constantly on this blue base and then a little bit in the sideboard.
Nice. And walk us through, I guess, some of your blues. So a lot of these blues, I think, look pretty familiar, like Murderous Rabble, Shifting Tides. I think those have been really nice inclusions post Pen. But Whisper of the Oracle and Truce, I think, are your kind of like spicy blues of choice.
Um, yeah, so I would say those two are ones I did not run before Compendium. The rest of that is stock standard. It comes treasure pack. That's how you know it goes in the deck. Um, so Whispers was interesting. This is one that I really think was enabled by Compendium and wasn't necessarily an option before. And part of that was we had to have blue arrows in the base, so we didn't have room for another set of cards that are pure utility, right? Um, but the other thing is we are so much more gold rich. You've heard everybody say it with this list, but because we are consistently shooting, and almost all of our pumps say get more gold, get more gold. It means now we typically have a stack of gold until we're ready to use it, which is usually after we've crippled our opponent or we just have to go for it. One of those two scenarios, right? And when you have a handful of blues, that's been the biggest complaint from everybody from like a 36 blue list is, well, what do I do with all these blues? And the answer is normally, well, you have to crack your gold down to filter that hand into load arrows, et cetera, et cetera. So in those scenarios, Whispers lets you preemptively look before you crack the gold because a lot of Marlin hands don't know whether they want an arrow or a pump or what the mix is. You need the context. The Whispers lets you get that context and say, okay, there's a pump on top, so I'm actually going to make a Goldfin harpoon and draw these two pumps, load it, fire it off. Or it sees a King Shark on top and it's like, okay, I'm not going to pitch my yellow pump. I'm going to hold that. I'm just going to draw off the top, hit this, and then play it out. There's a bunch of cool tricks you can do with it. So something that's really important to me for blues is how they function from your arsenal. So if this ends up in your arsenal, either because you put it there or it came off a ponder, you're able to start out the turn looking at the top two, which does all the gold things we talk about, but it lets you set up your ponder off of a codex play, which is really good. And it lets you blind port side, which is a way to load with 0 gold, which is really important as well. There's other neat tricks you can do with it. It's like versatile in that sense. And at the end of the day, like Taylor has said a lot, is if it's 0 cost as go again, it blocks 3. That's the 4 we're kind of looking for in our blue base, right? So there are other cards. Chandler was running Sift, blue Sift. I don't like that as much. It made sense for him wearing the different hat, but it's kind of in the same slot and it is a little bit flexible. I found this to be the best one just for tearing through the deck against aggro, find those key pieces like King Shark against Syndra, or in the longer games, making sure, okay, I get the right ponder off of this, or I can blind port side to preserve my gold stack against this fatiguey matchup, or I can make sure that I don't get Hunter or Hunted for a card I don't want Hunter or Hunted. So I think it's optimal in the slot. I don't see that getting replaced anytime soon.
Yeah, I think Chandler was also mentioning that I think he was not running whispers in his list, but he was thinking basically about like moving some of his cards to be whispers. But yeah, this card seems really solid, and I guess tell us a little bit about Truce. I imagine this kind of falls in a similar vein where it's like blue 3 block, obviously really good, but how often I guess did you end up resolving Truce? I'm kind of curious.
All the time. I would say like 3 or 4 rounds in the calling I played out of Truce.
That's pretty sick.
It's this one is special because this slot I've tried a lot of things in, but because Truce doesn't have go again and it costs 2, it doesn't it has to be like powerful enough to warrant that. Otherwise it should just be another bauble, essentially.
Yeah.
But the unique thing about Truce is I spent a lot of the week working on the fatigue matchups because, Huntsman came out of nowhere and Victor's decided they could be more greedy without their AB slots and stuff and play, more staunches, more blocks, whatever. Truce is really unique because it functions well when you want to play that on-turn, off-turn game plan into a slower fatigue type deck, whether that's your Victors, your Jarls, your Huntsmans, because it says, okay, if you just want to let us both gain 3 life, I get to play my 5-card hand. Well, that's all I want to do any turn of the game against fatigue anyway. And if you attack me, let's say you're Victor with a Spinal Crush or something, cool, I'll just draw a card and now I can block, but still send a 13 OP or do whatever my turn needs to do because I get that extra card off of the Truce. So we're happy with either outcome, and I think that's like the number 1 box you have to check to play a card like Truce in the deck. But against aggro, like I opened this into a Dio, I think, a Dio or an Acilio. I just went Shifting Tides, Truce, Arsenal Pass, and they're just staring at it like, what do I do about this? And I remember I've had both happen during the calling. Somebody just passed and let us both gain 3, and then I was like, big game, trophy shot, pump, 3 oak, like die. And then the other one attacked me, and I was like, okay, I'll take like 15 damage, and then exact same thing. I'm like, all right, well, make a goldfin, big game, pump, activate hammerhead, throw 17. And then, like you said, it's blue, it blocks 3, does all of that. So it's never a liability whenever you draw it, but there's some pretty insane upside, and it gives you that little chance to maybe high roll an aggro matchup, or maybe put a Victor in a bad spot that you wouldn't have with any other card in that exact slot in the deck list, basically.
Yeah, I feel like there's a pretty strong argument for Truce. I know I saw Taylor having an aneurysm over there, but
Yeah. Whenever he was like, "Yeah, I've played it 3 or 4 times," I'm just like, "Oh, what the fuck?"
Yeah, so this card really wants you to block. So like the most common line for a Truce play is you see the Truce in your hand, maybe a Shifting, maybe a Whispers or something, and you just eat like 3 or 4 damage, and you block 1 or 2 cards, and then you just throw out the Truce and Arsenal. But if you don't like blocking, this card sucks because it's like a setup unless it's turn 0, right? Like you can't just be like, cool, I'll take your Chelly for 15, shifting Truce Arsenal pass, right?
No.
It's like not great. But if you like the block, maybe too much, this card's great because it's just like a little 1 card play, shove something in your arsenal and wait for a better turn, filter out those blue hands.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's reasonable, especially like your playstyle is very slow, very like methodical. Like you're trying to just make sure your hand converts all the time. Like I think it makes a lot of sense. Cool. But yeah, let's I guess talk a little bit about the sideboard. So we already talked about mini fridge, which I guess I think it's pretty much mandatory. It feels like to me in a lot of these like newer lists, especially just into a lot of the aggro decks running around. Um, so Ben, I think you've been playing actually a pretty similar list to Nate. So can you tell us a little bit about I guess kind of like some of the recent developments with Honing Hood? Because I know we used to basically run this into um, very few matchups, right? We used to run it into like Valda or like the Mirror or whatever, but now we've actually been trying it into a couple more different matchups. So why don't you walk us through those?
So to put it a little bit more succinctly, um, through a large amount of testing, and I want to credit Nate where credit is due.
Yeah,
Um, through a combination of Nate's findings as well as Chandler's similar heuristics, it just sort of turns out that we always want to be running Honing Hood going second, or not necessarily always, but there is a large argument that you need to give to not be running because the capacity to just start the game with a 5 card hand is absolute. There are certain matchups where previously it was a little bit dicey whether or not you wanted to go first or go second, and now you just say, okay, I'm going to go second. I'm going to run Honing Hood, and you'll set up on me on turns. Dio will set up 2 items, but we start the game with a 5 card hand, and that kind of breaks parity or puts us back and kind of catches us up.
yeah. I've actually really liked that development with Honing Hood. Again, I'm giving Nate and Ben both of you credit because I think you two were at least you two were the first that I kind of heard it from. But yeah, like I feel like the Honing Hood going second thing has been a pretty substantial like buff to the deck. Just being able to start the game with a 5 card hand. Like there are some scenarios where you're not gonna have like the perfect arsenal going first or going second, and then you just like have to like save it or whatever. But like a lot of these times, it just lets you like high roll the fuck out of your opponent, which is really which is awesome. And I guess back to Nate. So we're gonna finish talking, I guess, a little bit about some of kind of like the spicier stuff because I think the deck list is like I don't think it's like solved necessarily, but a lot of like the core cards are solved. Like Cheating Scoundrel has to go in the deck, King Kraken, whatever. But walk us through, I guess, the tip the barkeeps in the sideboard. I think those are a little bit different than I think a lot of other Marlin lists I've seen. Like, what is kind of like the role that these are kind of?
Yeah, so you actually helped me working on the fatigue plan before the calling, and I tried a bunch of different stuff, and I found the issue was, especially against Huntsman, we wanted to run extra cards, but if we messed up our ratios at all, then we couldn't shoot every turn, and it defeated the purpose of the extra cards.
Yeah,
So it's like we just need to bring more blues in. Tip the barkeep has always been that like next blue for me. It's I played it before I was on to Whispers basically, and I played it in the true slot and tried it there. And the idea was for fatigue, you bring in 3 blues and 2 reds. You bring in 2 battering bolts, 3 tip the barkeep, and what that would let you do effectively is like block out the spinal crushes you need to block out the surgicals you need to block without losing those key core pieces like the cheating scoundrels and the big games that would ultimately result in you not quite having enough damage to get over them at the end. I really liked it, and the other bonus that we got from like adopting this plan in the board is you're able to sub tip the barkeep in or throw caution to the wind in matchups where throw caution could be a liability, like Dio. So you got to get extra points into all the aggro decks while having a solid fatigue plan that didn't take away from what your deck is trying to do. You weren't pivoting into anything else. You're still just shooting every turn. And if you send a battering bolt, hey, it's still just a 10, still hits Fables, still does all that good stuff.
yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. So I guess another kind of topic here is that I think you're not running Fables in the list, so you're not like a very big fan of I guess like Ataya and Riches as well, right? You found those to be kind of like a liability in your testing when you just have a hand that like can't block or like having the gem does kind of just hurt in that regard. So I feel like Tip the Barkeep actually does like a pretty good job of filling like that gem slot and letting you kind of like for fatigue.
Yeah, I've been pretty open about not being a fan of the gems. I think the calling Montreal was the last straw for me. Every calling I've lost a game to drawing a tie at the wrong time. Just one round I've lost because of that, and I was like, why is this even still in my deck list? It felt like it was a holdover from not having a density of stuff. Same with riches, right? Without cheating, riches makes a lot more sense. Without 18 harpoons, the riches loop makes a lot more sense. So I just cut them, and I haven't missed them since. I haven't really won them back. A couple times I brought them into, again, like you mentioned, fatigue, and I liked this plan a lot better. It was a lot more consistent.
Okay, so yeah, here's the question I had. So, I guess coming off the back of you doing well with this list, are there any like changes or kind of like thoughts of cards? I guess you want to kind of like try out.
Yeah, so I think I overtech for fatigue 100%. Um, Also, this list is not showing 3 cards that are in the deck.
Oh,
I
is
don't
it?
I don't know
It
why.
might be missing.
It's
Uh,
pretty funny.
what are the other three cards out of
Uh,
curiosity?
there's 3 bar barrage in there.
Oh,
My guess is that I've like moved them and you're on like the current, you know what I mean?
oh
Like I've
yeah,
taken
yeah. I
them
guess
out.
they're in the maybe board now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. So those were in. Um and they were there for gravy. I was respecting gravy. I'm just done. I'm done respecting gravy. He eats all these sideboard slots. I never play against it. I think with the new set there's gonna be less of it. So until he can convert to day 2, I'm just gonna stop boarding cards for gravy. So that already gets you 3 slots back.
Yeah,
Um, I'm also good. The tip the bar keeps. I think until unless Huntsman actually becomes this deck that's widely represented and people are showing up at numbers with it, I don't think you need to go out of your way to have a fat deck plan because that was the only deck that really forced you to play 65 cards.
yeah,
There are certain openers that the Guardians can have, like Victor, that just force you into blocks a lot, where it's nice to have, but not worth committing 3 slots over. Another thing I really missed this weekend that I brought up a little bit was the Spellvoid Quiver, so that was the first thing I shoved right back in there.
yeah.
Um, so looking forward to Nats, which is like the next big event for me. Um, Spellvoid Quiver is going to be in the deck, and I'm looking at 5 flex slots in the side. The 2 trues, I could see a world where basically some deck likes saying no, we both gain 3, and it's bad. And at that point, I would swap out that slot. But that's really the only slots that I'm looking at making changes to, or maybe testing other cards in based on the metagame.
Awesome. Well, yeah. Again, great job with the list. Again, one of the best kind of calling performances that we've had. So now I guess I want to. I guess unless anyone has any other kind of additional thoughts on Nate's list. But yeah, let's maybe go and jump ahead into Chandler's list. So I actually wanted to talk about Chandler's list. So Chandler actually, we invited him on, but he wasn't able to make it because I think he had something with his partner. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about Chandler's list. So Chandler was actually running some very spicy tech. I think that he's like one of the best performing New Horizons Marlins, which is kind of crazy. Like I didn't think this was a card we'd really see in 2026, which is kind of hilarious. Like I feel like this was in my mind like kind of like a remnant of like that early Marlin testing we were doing, right? Where it was just like we were writing like Conquer with High Seas, like other cards like that. Um Taylor, what you kind of watched a lot of Chandler's games. Tell me what you kind of thought about New Horizon. I'm kind of curious.
The only game I caught him with New Horizons was into Fatigue Pleiades, where of course the card is good
Yeah.
because Fatigue Pleiades gives you enough room to kind of start building up those 3 oak double arrows, and then it kind of snowballs from there. In that game, it looked fantastic. I didn't get to see him run it like going first into like any of the ninjas. He was playing Honing Hood and all those matchups. Uh, the Take Cover is a card that I saw him play into the Katsu that looked pretty good though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Yeah.
he was mentioning that this card was mostly for Huntsman, which is kind of interesting. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, it seems pretty good. Like, I guess it's like maybe just taking like the tar pit slot and maybe it's like a little bit more flexible, but seems kind of reasonable. I also experimented with Diriax in the deck at one point. And I remember them being like very, very clunky, but I can kind of see it being something that's pretty good in the Huntsman if you're just like kind of boarding up a little bit. But yeah, Chandler's running kind of like a very interesting package. So, like Nate was running Dominion and Honing Hood going first and second. Chandler instead was running New Horizons, basically going first to try to set up that double arsenal, and then Honing Hood going second, which I think is still really solid. I actually did a bit of testing with New Horizons, and I think the card, like when it works, like what it can let you do is kind of insane, right? Like setting a double arsenal on turn 0 lets you basically like start the game up 2 cards, which is kind of incredible. How consistent you can do that, I think, is like the biggest question, right? And I think it's roughly like 50-50 or something where you're able to have like a double arsenal or not, which I think makes the card at least worth considering. Like, I think the card is actually like better than I maybe initially gave it credit for. I don't know, Ben Nate, any kind of thoughts on New Horizon?
Yeah, so I took New Horizons to Worlds and I went 1-4. It was there with like 3 other headpieces. But no, the card is really good. And maybe better than people. If people haven't tried it, I recommend you try it to see what that upside is. So basically, see what you're giving up by running Crown of Dominion instead, for instance. But as long as we have aggro decks in the format, what you are giving up by giving up that Crown of Dominion is being able to shoot going first.
Yeah.
And shooting going first has gotten significantly better post pen because we have all these additional harpoons and on hit effects that make gold. So even before pen, it was still better to be able to shoot to get that potential life lead, to get some information on their hand to generate gold, etc. And I think New Horizon, outside of like a fatigue plan, like Taylor brought up against fatigue Pleiades, it's not that New Horizon isn't good or worth considering. It's that it's not worth giving up that guaranteed turn 1 shot that Crown of Dominion gives you, and the additional filtering from just being able to like play out of Whispers, then port side, crack gold. Like it really lets you dig compared to New Horizon. The fact that it blocks 2 though is worth bringing up. That can come up, especially in those longer grindy fatigue games. You will block 2 with this at some point, kind of after you're already in the second cycle. And at least from before when I played it, it always felt really good to be able to like block 6 on my fridge or something.
The block value is very good. I will say that it doesn't let you block maybe when you want to. Like if you do have an arsenal, the condition of like destroying all your cards is pretty rough. But like overall, you should be able to get 2 value at some point. You might just not be able to like pick when you get the 2 value, right? But yeah, overall, I think
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. But yeah, I also wanted to, I guess, just go through some additional notes that kind of Chandler left us in the Discord. So, again, to kind of support the New Horizons, Chandler's also running Quiver Wrestling Leaves as well as Sift. I think he was also maybe talking basically about cutting like maybe overcrowded into burdens or some number of burdens to basically make room for Whisper of the Oracle to kind of just have additional chances to basically like load turn 0. But the New Horizons thing is really interesting because it feels like it's a trade-off between like that first turn 1 shot and then setting like a double arsenal to give you tempo. So I guess it like kind of it depends a lot, I guess, on like who you're facing, I guess. I don't know if we have room for 3 headpieces, but I feel like there are a lot of interesting use cases for New Horizon. And I feel like Chandler also did very, very well. And I think for, I guess, other kind of spicy choices, so I think Chandler was running Bullseye Bracers into Acilio, which is something that seems a little suspect to me, but like maybe not too bad. I think he was running, from his notes here, he said he was running basically AB2, not running the Trench of Watery Depths, and then just running the Quiver, which seems kind of interesting. But yeah, that was also a really cool choice. And then basically, Chandler was also running Sift in the main deck as like kind of like an additional kind of density of like reload options basically for New Horizons. He said most of the time this basically will just block or pitch, but on like turn 0, he'll often try to play this to maybe set the double arsenal. And then I think that's pretty much all the notes I have for Chandler. Again, I'm kind of abbreviating this a little bit. But yeah, he was also thinking about maybe swapping the take covers back to tar pits as well, which is maybe something we mentioned before. But overall, again, really cool deck list from Chandler. Any other kind of thoughts, I guess?
He's a really good player.
Yeah, he is a very good player.
Also, he just wanted it more. Because let me tell you what, I watched him play an Ira matchup. And no, sorry, it was a Katsu matchup. And the Katsu goes Warmongers, and he goes in response, activate rustling leaves, King Shark. I was like, dude, he just wants it more, man. And like his opponent was just like, whatever, cool. Like I saw that, I was like, dude, he's a gamer. There's nothing about it. He's just a gamer.
I think it
And
was
in 2023, didn't he in 2023 win on Rhinar? So like the scab skin luck is just with him.
yeah.
Yeah. He won calling, the calling that was in the first worlds on Rhinar.
Yeah, he is kind of a legend. He told me about how good his quiver of rustling leaves luck, and I'm like, I can't hit for shit with this. This is terrible.
His burdens too. He
yeah.
like won his IRA game because he just like cheesed him with burdens. I was like, yeah, you wanted it more.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was it? It was Burdens with a red fin stopped him from playing a Fate Foreseen and then took the Fate Foreseen out of his hand.
Oh, it's real good when it does that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I had a Burton's do a similar thing in a list I was testing. I just like ripped like just a D-React out of hand with a battering bolt. It was kind of nasty. But anyways, again, thank you, Chandler, for typing out the notes and kind of just giving us the deck list. Again, I think there's like a lot of really cool ideas in this list. So I encourage people to give it a try. Like I think that New Horizons is again a lot better than you think. But yeah, let's maybe go on to the final list. So I want to maybe touch on Taylor's list that you brought to calling, if you want.
Oh no, it's okay. It's
Okay,
okay.
yeah, we could bring that up. Do you have a link to that actually?
Yeah, I'll post it.
Yeah, we can roast you. It's fine.
I just want to jump in here. I'm so thankful for Chandler for being like the absolute goat. Because on day 2, I was at the top tables and I would sit down across from my opponent, and they're like, I didn't expect to see a Marlin here. And I'm like, well, the other one's right over there. Oh yeah, the other one's actually doing better today. And they just lost their minds. Like I'd won the mental game before we even started.
Okay,
Incredible.
I actually don't have a list. I'm gonna
Okay.
be real with you
Yeah, that's fine.
because I constantly update my personal deck.
Yeah, you're good.
But I just want you to imagine the most generic looking 80 you've ever seen. Just like close your eyes. I mean, like everyone knows what my decks look like, and then just that's it.
Do you have a moment to talk about Fab Foundry? Fab Foundry is your one-stop shop for all things Fab, and is my personal favorite LGS. They have a great selection of Fab singles, sealed product, and accessories. They're also going to be your host for Pro Tour Las Vegas. You can also use our promo code Flesh and Bad for 5% off your next order, so go check them out and support our community in Portland. Is this basically it, kind of?
This is yeah. We could just say this was the deck for the weekend.
Wait,
Oh yeah.
I
My
have
God,
a-
you found my deck. Holy sh! Oh, thank you. Yeah. So I decided to play Marlin. This was the deck. 2 Tipple. Yep. See.
Yep.
Where's the Codex of Bloodrot?
Were you ready, Codex?
That is true. I did play 2 of those this weekend.
Okay, interesting.
So I have an important question, Taylor.
Yeah.
How many callings have you played 36 blues in your Marlin list?
0.
That's all.
You know why? Because I walked so everyone else could run. Okay.
True.
Somebody's got to do it.
Someone's got to do it. So someone's got to put in the 34 blue reps.
I'm an old man. I see the new tech. I'm like, I'll do it eventually. Maybe one day I'll reinvent the deck again. But until then, I'm not doing it. And I'm just an old man. That's all. That's all it is. Because once you go to 36 blues, you have to block. And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't want to block. I didn't come here to block. I didn't make this deck to block.
Yeah.
No, I want to beat face. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but again, so how did I get? I think we already talked about your Memphis, but I guess like how did the deck feel with you with like the Codex of Bloodrot and stuff? Like, did any?
I mean, I won every game I was supposed to win, and I lost every game I was supposed to lose, and that was just gym roulette. I was like, I'm not like the game. Like, I got paired into 2 warriors when there's like 6 in the field. Well,
Yeah.
what is that crap? Okay.
That's
Crap.
fair.
Yeah, I was like, I lost. I think I played pretty optimal throughout the
Yep.
day, but Jacob just played more optimal.
That's fair. That's fair.
His deck is just infinitely better than ours.
Yeah. I still kind of think about that when I compare Marionette to Marlin. It's just like that deck is so like the high rolls I feel like on that deck are kind of crazy. But I guess we have good high rolls as well.
We have good high rolls too,
Yeah.
but their deck is really good.
It's like
Their
consistent.
deck,
Like Marionette.
yeah, their deck can play any hand size above rate,
Which is crazy.
and that's broken,
Yeah.
right?
Or we have to keep like a 4-card hand to just do anything.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyways, again, thank you, Taylor, for sharing my list as your list.
Woo!
Yeah.
It's that easy.
It's that easy.
It's that easy.
But just imagine this list with like 2 less blues and then Codex of Bloodrod, and then you're pretty much set. Maybe the sideboard's different. Who cares? Cool. So now we're going to do some Marlin fan questions. So these are some questions I think I pulled kind of like a couple weeks ago when we were originally kind of scheduled to do this, but I think there are a lot of them are still kind of applicable now. So we're gonna do some fan questions, and then we're also going to do some more like Marlin puzzles. I think that some of them are like maybe a little bit simple, but we'll kind of maybe see if we can find some interesting ones. But yeah, let's go ahead and start with the fan questions. So the first question comes, I guess, from Pyro20. And they ask, I think the biggest heuristic I struggle with is relation between gold and tempo. There's a lot of talk about your big gold turn, but knowing what that is can sometimes be hard. Like if I have 7 gold and a harpoon buff, 2 blues, do I take the easy route, or do I pop a bunch of gold to fire a harpoon for 13, or do I dig for buffs? I guess maybe Ben, do you want to try to take this one? Like, how do you think about golden tempo? I guess.
Well, I will say if I have a stack of 7 gold, I've probably already run away with the game.
Yeah, that's fair.
No, but very frequently, I like to hold on to my gold until there is a turn where I need to crack gold to connect. As Nate said, we're on 18 arrows in the deck, which means there is a percentage of the time where you're going to have to dig 3 or 4 cards deep to find the next piece of action. And if you're aggressively cracking your gold just to try to get an extra 3 points of damage on an arrow, sometimes you're going to run out. Now that being said, if your hand only converts by performing alchemy and converting 2 blues and you're converting 2 cards into 3 cards, then you're going to go for it.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on this question? I think one thing that I like to think about, I guess, is maybe just a change between kind of how the deck list has evolved. Like, back in the day, it used to feel like risky to pop gold if you had like, it felt risky to like try to crack gold to find more blues if your hand needed blues. But like now the deck like has 36 blues, so you can kind of like get around that problem. You also just have 3 oak as like a pseudo blue, right? So like the deck can basically crack from an all blue hand into finding like red pieces of action or just like your buffs and stuff. And it can also like kind of fix your hand when you need it. Like if you just need to crack for an extra resource or something like that. I feel like both are kind of possible with the deck depending on like I guess what your like remaining deck composition is. So I feel like the deck is a lot more flexible, and I guess like how you can use it. Kind of interesting. Cool, but I hope that kind of answers the question. Let's maybe move on to the next one. So this is from Gecko, and they ask, how do you play against Wobble with Ryok or Codex? So let's maybe start, I guess, with the top one, Taylor. How do you play against Wobble?
So whenever they cast it, I'll reach across the table, I'll grab it, and I'll just shove it in my mouth. Then I'll call a judge for a deck check. And then they'll be like, oh, you presented 59 cards? And you'll be like, and they'll be like, okay, that's a game win. In all reality,
Yeah.
whenever you're playing anything into a wobble, you have to be pretty aware that if you have 2 gold, you always have a way out, which is, of course, activating Marlin, popping the gold, and shooting the gold fit. Because even if they do wobble your Codex or something, if you have 2 gold, you do that and you arsenal a card. So you're giving up 1 card for 1 card of theirs. It is a net negative. It's a very powerful card. It's very high rolly. It's very high variance for them to play. And it is very powerful. But In reality, though, sometimes that you just have to force them to have it. It is not something that you can actively play around. You can bait it. You can play cards like Cheating Scoundrel, and you can do the whole entire paper thing where you go Cheating Scoundrel, and you could try to bait them into playing it on that instead of like a 3 yoke or something or a codex. But in reality, you just have to have 2 gold, and you have to be very, cognizant of the other play line in which you make the golden fin.
Yeah.
Anyone else wanna add to that?
Yeah, we come from other card games where like instants are maybe a little more common, but the bottom line is play around it when you can afford to, and for as long as you can afford to. Then you just have to make them have it. You just have to go for it and say, hey, I probably lose to a wobble here if I codex. But if you have a choice where you can send maybe an overpowered 10 and Arsenal to codex, you do that instead. Don't play into the wobble. Don't give them their equity for free. Not until you have to.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty good answer. Just like play around it when you can, but if you have to play into it, like
Eat it.
eat it. Yeah, make them have it, right? Okay, so next question, I guess, is when to kill gravy allies. So Nate, you probably have maybe the best context for this question because you were on Barb Barrage. So, what was, I guess, your gravy plan for that list, and like what allies, I guess, did you prioritize?
Well, so yeah. Gum, number one enemy. Sawbones, number two. Rigor Mortis, number three. None of the other allies really have text.
Yeah,
Um, if you're on Barbed, you're pretty much always going to clear if you can do that and shoot face at the same time. If you're on Endless, you need to prioritize clearing Gum when you can, because you're going to have hands and like blocks you need to do that are going to make it hard to clear something with that much defense. So you always prioritize Chum and Sawbones for that reason. And then you're always looking to line up if you're on Bitbowl or your Murderous Rebels with their Rigor Mortis, because even through Fearless, you're generally going to be able to clear them. And you're always trying to take that off the board because it's kind of their most efficient damage output.
yeah. I think that pretty much sums it up. And I guess like you didn't really play many gravies during the culling, but did you have kind of like a plan? Like I don't think you were trying to go for full fatigue. Were you trying to go more like aggressive and just trying to clear your allies when you can, or were you trying to maybe go more of
Yeah, no, you completely ignore the allies, and the only time you're clearing them is if they like quote unquote trap you with Chum, like they force you to hit it.
yeah,
But you're generally trying to line up your barbs with those or flip over their chums preemptively. So it's 100% go face, and you're only clearing an ally as a secondary mode on Barb Barrage, or because you want to play out like a Murderous Rebel in Arsenal. You just don't have a good attack at the face.
fair, fair. All right, let's move on to I guess our next question. What do we do in the Prism matchup? So I guess I'll take this question. I think in general, like there's two different plans I guess they can kind of present into you. There's like the Aura and the Herald plan. I think regardless of what plan they're doing, though, you kind of just want to go face as much as possible, right? I think in your list, Nate, you're running Barb Barrage to help kind of deal with ALS, which I think is pretty helpful. I think another card that's pretty helpful in that matchup is just Tar Pit Trap. Just being able to stuff a Herald. I'd say like those are probably my main heuristics or tech cards in that matchup. Anything anyone else want to add? Also, just running all of your poppers and harpoons. Really good.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. You're just looking, like in a macro sense, you're just looking to pop when you can. You're trying to get them to activate Hat and then tarp it, to stop their air addition from hitting anyway. I wouldn't worry about the matchup too much. They're almost gone, and there's all kinds of niche lines that come up in this matchup based on like what auras they're on, or whether they're on full heralds, or what they think you're going to do. Every prism is different.
Yeah, definitely feel pretty different depending on like what game plan they kind of done or whatever. All right. And then moving on, I guess to our last question: when to crack your gold turn one and when not to. So this is kind of like a bit of a hard heuristic because it depends. You hit them with the depends.
It's vibe
It's
based.
vibe based, yeah. But Gerald, what are you? Okay, so maybe a better question is, what are you considering when you're making that choice, right? Like, you gotta look at what hero they're playing, what deck
Mhm.
deck list do you think they're playing.
What armor?
what armor, how defensive they are. Like I feel like a lot of that is very contextual. And it also depends on like what you're trying to do with your gold crack, right? Like, are you trying to send 14 damage, or are you trying to send 8? I feel like there are kind of like different, I guess, like risk reward for that kind of thing. Anyone else have anything to add? Again, a little bit of more of like kind of a general vibe question.
If we didn't want to crack the gold turn 1, we'd wear New Horizons.
That's true.
True king. That's so true.
Yeah, it turns out sending 10 overpower turn 1 is generally pretty good, especially if you can just like throw a BGTS on it or something else. But yeah, I think that's like generally like what we kind of look at when we're trying to figure out if we crack gold turn 1. Okay, then moving right along. This is, I guess, a fellow content creator question from Rob or All In Together. What game do you think about switching to when your codex gets wobbled?
Not Riftbound. They've been
Not
kind of in the
Riftbound.
dumpster. Maybe no. I was gonna say look, Cyberpunk TCG.
Wait, is that a new one? Or is that like
Yes, it is.
okay,
Yes, it is.
fascinating?
Cyberpunk TCG just blew out, kind of blew away all of the what's called pre-order numbers or like Kickstarter numbers. Meanwhile, at the same time, rest in peace, Altered TCG. Unfortunately, just shuttered its doors. Another Kickstarter training game.
Yeah, Cyberpunk TCG is the answer.
Is that a CD Project Red? Is that the same Cyberpunk?
It is a separate team, but
Okay.
like CDs gave them like the thumbs up and
Okay, I
like is
see.
like giving them assets. It's like a Ravensburger with like Lorcana.
Okay, gotcha. Nice. All right. Well, thank you, Rob, for your insulting question. All right. Next, from Gul'dan, are there any good general guidelines of what I want my pitch stack to look like with Marlin? All right, I'll open this one.
What's a pitch stack?
Well, okay, so Marlin does the Guardian thing, where if you play correctly, your deck actually pitch stacks itself, kind of like how Guardian will pitch stack like Tear Sunder and blues. We just pitch stack blues with blue harpoons, and then we just kill our opponents. The deck actually just naturally pitch stacks, so don't like try to like overthink your pitch stack too much. Like, and that's really the simple answer is like don't overthink it. The deck will do the work for you.
Yeah. I think like for first cycle you can like maybe if you're good enough at the game, which again I'm not, you can kind of keep like a red blue count and try to like figure out like what your percentage to hit off the top or whatever is. But I think in general a lot of it's just more vibe based. Like again, if you like pitch a codex and you're most likely gonna be pitching it next to 2 blues. So if you go to that in second cycle, you're gonna be finding like just like 10 overpower off 3 cards, which is um yeah, I think the deck does largely just stack itself. And then let's move on to, I guess, the next question. My opponent draws the nutty triple D react and I lose my hook. What changes do I make to my game plan?
Depends on the matchup, but cool, they took your hook.
Yeah,
Yeah, it just happens.
it happens. Like, it depends on what you're playing against, but if you're playing against like an Ira and you don't see any D reacts, and then they hit you a triple D react, tough beats.
So
or something like that,
I do think I will play like I will play more, take more risk once my hook is gone. Because I think playing safer with no hook, like, it's like they blew up your hook and you're like, oh, I'm scared now. Maybe I should be conservative. It's like, no, they blew up your hook. You need to be aggressive and like just full send every turn if you want to keep making gold this game because your hook is gone.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. And also just like knowing when to throw your hook, like if you want to try to risk it, like try to risk it maybe in the mid game or towards the end of the game is what I would try to say. Like obviously contextual, like if you're sending 16, you probably don't have to worry about your hook, but like you have to just be kind of careful. And then
Aurora, you say that, and then I send 17 overpower into Mario.
Yeah.
And then he blocks 17 and then goes Codex Leave the Witnesses. I don't know what you're talking about.
Doesn't happen to me. Unlucky.
When he tells me, I'm like, yeah, Mario can cover that.
And it's actually
Duh.
really funny when they do that. They're legally allowed to stand up from the table and Fortnite dance at you. It's an actual thing they're
True.
legally allowed to do.
Yep.
Yo,
They're like, oh, nice hook. You're just like, I hate these guys. I swear.
just hitting the gritty after breaking your hook.
Exactly, dude. It's like, you know what? You deserved it.
They wanted it more, as I guess we were saying earlier. And I guess final question: have we found space for Deathmatch Arena, Heart of Final, Plague Hive in the Dynasty CNCs yet? So that's actually kind of funny because I won my Pro Quest with Plague Hive, which did nothing, by the way.
I'll be real with you.
Spite of Plague Hive.
Yeah.
I'll be real. Like when I played Plague Hive, it won me a game. And like I know this, like, dude, I cracked a gold and made a friendly under my Mario player, and he's like, he had a card, and he's just like, I don't even know what to do. Pass. And I was like, oh my god, this card is insane. But you know what? I did not play it this weekend. Maybe it needs to go back in the deck. I don't know.
No.
Can't be worse than a Codex of Blood Rot, surely.
Yeah.
Codex of Blood Rot is 0 for 5. Okay.
Hmm.
I
Interesting.
can't do math. I play Marlin.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Plague Hive in my Pro Quest, I think it got a singular point of value.
That's pretty good.
But I had to crack a gold to get a blue, so I traded 1 gold for like 1 point of value.
That's insane. What are you talking
That's
about,
all
dude?
our deck does. It's
That's what.
broken.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the point of the card. You just described the point of the card.
Damn. Okay, maybe I just need to play more Plague Hive. Maybe that's the real solution. Or we need to also maybe find an excuse for Heart of Final in there in the life game.
We did see that actually. We did see Art of Fendel.
Wait, really?
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah. What was it? The guy that day 2 the calling. What calling was it?
Oh, you're talking about the guy in Italy. You're talking about the Italian guy, right?
Yeah. He pitched a heart, and I was like, oh my god, oh my god, dude.
I
was like,
had like a picture for my Pro Quest of me just holding all 4 of my Fables. Maybe I need to get another picture of just all 5 instead.
I did get to pitch a Riches, an Eye, and an Authority in 1 turn against the Valda. And we were talking about it, and I was like, I just pitched a paycheck. Dude, I was like, dude, this is awesome.
Yeah. Fables are always funny, but like Nate's kind of actually shown that you really don't need them. I mean, like I feel like this is probably the point in the deck where we've needed Fables the least, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
So Fables are no longer an excuse to not play Marlin. I guess like Eye is still pretty good. Yeah, the other Fables I feel like are kind of, I don't know, preference at this point maybe. Okay, yeah, let's go on to the next one. So Ninja Culling Refugee. When you play Portside Exchange, I've seen you pitch it to draw instead of doing the Marlin ability to like play Portside, discard Goldfin. So let's imagine a hand where it's like Portside blue and maybe like a red harpoon or something. So what are you doing with Portside is one of the blues. What are you doing in that situation most of the time? And let's say you have like a gold out.
I think back in the day, I was activating Marlin and playing Portside out far more expeditiously, far more frequently. But the more I've played the deck, the more I've started feeling like, you know, maybe I'm just supposed to crack the gold here because I have a number of effects that want to consume my once per turn tap Marlin like a gold resource.
No.
And so I think it really depends on the situation.
Yeah, depends on the situation. Like depends on what you think is left in your deck. But generally, I feel like I take because there's 12 yellows in the deck. So like if you can add if you crack the gold by paying into it with like one of the blues instead of playing the port side, you have like a much higher success rate by hitting like a yellow, right? Instead of just like port siding, and then you have blues in your deck, which like 36 blues is like the norm, which is pretty high, like over 50%, maybe like 60% or whatever. But yeah, it's still like not guaranteed that you're gonna hit that blue. And if you hit a yellow, then you're just sending like 6 or whatever. So I feel like I generally try to play it safe, but it depends again. Cool. All right, let's go and move on to the next one. So, how do you keep gold generation? So I guess these are kind of the same question. So we'll kind of just condense these. But how do you keep gold generation and tempo versus decks that can block us out, ignore overpower, especially when we can't abuse gold stacks to get big turns? So like warriors with Diriax, Jarl, and then generally into these kind of decks, do you go first or second? Anyone want to take this question?
Block
You
a
block?
lot.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
fair. I feel like the actual answer maybe kind of goes back to your Marlin guide, Taylor, where you're talking about we're not gonna get it too deep into it, but you call it basically the math plan versus like the disruption plan or whatever, right?
Yeah, it's the way that you view how you're actually playing the game instead of looking at like the Go Fish text. You're looking at like I'm playing a 3 card 8,
Yeah.
where you're like almost like OG Hamiltoning the opponent instead of like trying to math out like how much your Go Fish is worth.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and plug, I guess, the Marlin guide while you're here.
It's good. People like it. Woo! Okay,
Alright.
that's it. That's okay. Next.
The Marlin Bible. Actually, I do actually really like your guide though. I think again the work you put into it is pretty awesome.
I think the only reason it did well is because it's called the Marlin Bible,
Yeah.
and it's just the name was like, oh, that's a good name, and that's why it sold as well as it did.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it's a pretty good name. But yeah, I think in general, like, how I think about like these matchups is they'll just kind of run out of D-Reacts eventually. Like, you can't put every D-React in the game in your deck. Like mostly it's just the 0 for 4. So eventually you'll run out, and then once you run out, overpower tech starts actually mattering, and then we can like actually kind of play the game. That's kind of how I think about it. So yeah, basically just trying not to like leak damage too much, convert your hands well, that kind of thing.
To answer the second part of their question, these are almost always go second matchups. So sometimes you'll Honing Hood start with the 5 card hand, and that lets you get rolling. But in general, these are go second, just to answer that part of the question.
Yeah. In general, just having tempo into decks that are probably going to try to swing into you, or maybe just try to like Arsenal pass or whatever, is pretty nice, and getting that extra card. Cool. And I think now this is going to be the last section. So I think we're making good time, but everyone doing good. Doing good. Cool.
Yeah, I guess my wife. Let's go.
Nice. Cool. All right. So this is going to be the last section. Again, we have a pretty short amount of puzzles this time, just because I didn't have a ton of time to put them together. But this is, I think, people's favorite part of, I guess, the Marlin is solved videos or whatever, the Marlin Council videos. But yeah, let's go ahead and do some, I guess, pen edition puzzles. So I think this first one is from Blighter in the Discord. I've titled it The Fire Department. So looks like, I'll kind of just lay out the situation here. Looks like we have Tunic on 1, pile of 3 gold, and then we have a Sunken Treasure in hand, King Shark, Cheating Scoundrel. So it looks like a pretty good hand overall. And they're wondering, they're playing against what looks like maybe a Kadachi Fi. Life totals are pretty even. And they're wondering basically what they should be doing. I imagine the question is basically, what should we be doing with this Sunken Treasure here? Because there is a Phoenix Flame in the yard. Maybe we want to turn that over, do something. What do you guys kind of think about this scenario? Like, what are you kind of looking to do here?
Okay, this is a fun one. Mainly because my opinion changes because they're on Kodachis,
Yeah.
which doesn't use the Phoenix Flame correctly. So that means that we can assume that they're on Mask of Momentum, because there's no reason you should ever be on Links if you're on Kodachis. So you should actually no block this, take it, and on the next attack, you should actually put your armor into it, and try to actually hold the Sunken Treasure as long as you can. And if not, try actively not to play it unless the last attack, of course, is a 3. Then you can play it just to prevent the mask. And because you have Tunic at 3, you can always do the whole 5 intellect thing that you do with blues. But I personally would try to play around Mask of Momentum here and try to hold the Sunken Treasure. How about you guys? What would you guys do?
I mean, I would ask myself first and foremost why I am not running quick dodge flexors here. But
Yes.
Good question.
no, that one's just me. No, but in this situation, it's 25-25. My question would be, how many cards does our opponent have in their hand right now?
Looks
Is
like they have
this
3.
3?
Yeah.
what? Oh,
Yeah, sorry.
I am illiterate.
Oh, you're fine.
It's okay. You're a Marlin player.
Yeah, it happens to the
You
best
know,
of us.
this is true. We don't know how to read.
But yeah, like so 4 card hand, and then we could get value out of sunken. Does this, I guess, change? So let's maybe assume they're like more of a normal buy. Do we want to maybe try to block with a sunken trade? Like, there's a bit of a risk involved here, right? Where we're like losing a blue, um, potentially to try to flip the Phoenix Flame. You feel like that changes it all if you're like on a more normal buildify, I guess.
So, in my opinion, the only time you should be trying to like scam your opponent with sunken treasure is if that's the only way you win.
Hmm.
The rest of the time, you just need to be doing what's best for you because your deck is better than theirs, right? So in this hand, that is a resource card that is sending a King Shark, unless I'm going to die, or I know, turning over the Phoenix Flame will somehow stop me from dying. So I think this is more of like a trap you can fall into because you're like, oh, this is a really cool interaction. But
Mhm.
the macro strategy here is I want to send a giant King Shark because I win every time I do that.
Yeah. I think that's kind of where my head's at least. Like I think the sunken treasure is actually maybe a trap on this hand. Like flipping over Phoenix Flame, you're maybe getting like 1 to 2 points of value, maybe stopping like a mass trigger or something, or just a chain link. But like having the ability to set King Shark for 13 guaranteed next turn is like a pretty big like thing to give up, or a big thing to like risk on this hand, right? So that's kind of where my head's at with it, at least this. I don't know if y'all agree.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we
Okay.
used to talk a lot about
But
failure states, and it's like if you do block with that, that's now you can see how you could lose this game. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah, no, I agree.
yeah, that's kind of where my head's at as well. I think they also asked maybe kind of a similar question. Does having the tunic not available change anything? And I think the answer is probably no, right? Because like we're not relying on
Mm.
the tunic here anyways. Like we don't want to take the play that kind of like leaves us in a situation that's even worse. So yeah, I think
We yeah, we want to lower the amount of variance that we can have whenever we pop gold,
you know,
and the best way to do that is by keeping the blue to guaranteeing that we are able to keep going.
yeah. So the tunic really doesn't change very much. Maybe it just means that we don't get to do like the kind of like five, like only crack 2 gold, maybe do the 5 end
Yeah.
thing. But like overall, I think it's safer to try to just send this hand if you're not actively. Cool. But let's go on to I guess our next puzzle. So this is from Tasha on the Discord. And this is so it looks like maybe they're on kind of some spice here. So we're on Fire in the Hole, which I know Nate is a fan of historically. Um, yeah, Fire in the Hole is pretty spicy. Basically, I think the question here, or at least why I think this is a puzzle, is because we have Fire in the Hole, we have 3 Oaks, obviously a pretty good hand. Question, I guess, is like, are we trying to Fire in the Hole and then like activate Cannon here? What are your thoughts? Because my immediate reaction is, I just want to take the +3 and make sure I'm guaranteeing being able to send a Harpoon. Um,
Yes.
if we are pitching 5, we're basically gambling off the top that we're going to draw into 2 blues and an arrow, which is pretty dicey, I'd say. Like that doesn't always work. You have some fail states, like Codex is a fail state. So I feel like the safe line here is to just not pump. But curious if you all have any thoughts. Nope, I think
Yeah.
pretty much agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Let's
So
move on.
I would IP the Fire in the Hole. I would pitch blue Phoenix.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So
Uh,
basically, unless there's some kind of specific breakpoint, like I know I'll get over their armor if I'll Fire in the Hole. To justify using the card, you really want to get both taps out of it. So if you can just send a Harpoon, you're going to want that in Arsenal because, yeah, this 3 Oak doesn't do it safely, but the next one will.
I think that's actually pretty reasonable. Again, you've played more Fire in the Hole than we have, so like,
Yeah, this is
if
a
you're playing
specific
this,
Fire in the Hole thing that's how I play around it, basically.
gotcha. And you normally play like Fire in the Hole into like more fatiguey matchups, right?
Well, it was just in the exact same slot where Cheating Scoundrel is before Pen came out. So just instead of getting the gold on hit, you just got to shoot bigger arrows and tap hook when you weren't supposed to.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like just trying to get the max value out of it if you're playing it into.
Yep.
I guess you were playing into everyone basically back then, but like assuming maybe you're
Yeah,
playing into
everybody.
like big deck, maybe it gets a little better. Um,
hmm
cool. Yeah, makes sense. All right, let's do the next one. So I titled this one "This Hand Sucks" because it looks like we are going. All right, this is actually a screenshot from Nate. Did we talk about this one? I think we did. But looks like we have a hand that's two reds, King Kraken, big game trophy shot, and gold to tip. So no real clean, super clean line here that we can go for just off of this hand. What are your all's thoughts on this?
This hand does suck.
Thank
This hand.
you, Taylor. What's the play? I guess is the question.
So I don't remember posting this, but I'm glad that mine is the one that sucks, you know? My guess is that I posted this because there's you might want to go for a big game line, but you're actually at 5 resources and a harpoon, and there's no blues in this hand. That means you've hit a non-blue for the top 4 cards. So if you crack that gold, you will draw a blue and fire this Kraken for 10.
I
And that
like
you
the
should take behind a
confidence.
big line, gold, and yeah. I mean, if you're not gonna think that way, like you can't play this deck. So
Yeah.
it's
True,
like
yeah.
you just have to know it's there, right?
It looks like we
And
may
your
blocked with
fail
the
state's
blue.
pretty good.
But yeah,
So
like the chances
from
of
here,
hitting a blue here are super high.
Even then, I
Um,
guess what your fail
But
state.
yeah, I
ends
think
up
this is
being
just
on
one of
that.
those hands where you kind of have to make do and say like, I want to send 10. If I don't send 10, that sucks.
there's other lines here. Like it's so you can go for the big game with the gold fin, and depending on what you hit, you just send a gold fin, and maybe you get the gold to tip it, depending on how you pitch and everything. You can also just go for like a naked Kraken, so no overpower, discarding, you know, and just hold a card back for cheating scoundrel. So there's like a lot of ways to play this hand that still do good numbers, like kind of in the math game plan. But I think again that the safest line or like what you're trying to do is just crack that gold. Yeah, it sucks you're only sending 10 when there's 3 pumps in your hand, but that's better than a bunch of fail states that you can get if you start playing out the cards.
Yeah, I think that's
That's my
fair.
take.
Yeah, especially into I guess Marionette where
Mario.
they're where Kraken is a little bit more impactful. You can like snipe a Codex or something pretty far ahead. So again, not super likely. Maybe with just their armor kind of like already up, but like still worth going for. I think.
My other question would be, do you guys ever Arsenal pass here? Because it looks like we are turn 1 and then turn 0 they flicked us, so we deny them clave by passing here. People have asked me this before, so I'm bringing it up.
No, I'm break points. I'm not Arsenal Pass. It's a different podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all aggression here on breaking points.
I mean, there's also
But yeah, I think I like going for the aggressive line, trying to hit the blue off the top. That's probably what I would. Cool. Let's go, I guess, on to the next one. So, Shifting Tides, I guess, is a new addition to the deck, and I think this is just a screenshot, not even from a real game, but just some goldfishing I was doing the Talshar UI. So, looks like I kind of put together a scenario where we draw a bunch of crap blues on our hand. We have one gold out,
Whoa.
not crap
Whoa.
blues.
We don't play crab blues anymore. We play truce, okay?
Yeah.
Whispers of the Oracle.
But this hand's
Hey,
actually really good, right?
Ortside's a great card.
Yeah.
Leave it at that.
Yeah. Basically, I think all these cards are actually really good. But we don't have an arrow, which sucks. We don't really have a great way to shoot an arrow, which also kind of sucks. But like the new cool thing that this deck can do, assuming that we're maybe just like going first, or maybe this is just like some kind of mid turn in the game or whatever, is we can just like play out 2 Shifting Tides, play out Rabble, Arsenal port side. I think that's the line at least that I see. Any other spicy lines you see off this one?
Yeah, it's the blind port side after you play out shifting.
Line port.
Shouldn't you port side first?
Again.
I mean, shouldn't you play port side first? You go port side, then you do your stuff.
Are you like cracking gold to port side, or are you just doing port side discard?
Taylor. Why are we discard Taylor? You can activate.
Kind of see it.
Okay.
Well, I feel like I'm not trying to even go with for an arrow on this hand.
Oh, dude, I'm so different. I'm so different.
Yeah. No, this is blind. So Taylor, the reason I blind port side is because I actually want to go one card. I want to go another card deeper while still preserving the tap ability in case I hit like big game or whatever.
Y'all are just built different.
Fair enough.
Because once you've activated the cannon off the blind port side, if you hit the big game, you make the gold fin, discard whatever comes off the top. You've already activated the cannon. You're sending 10 OP if you hit the big game.
Oh, just built different.
Nate's built different. All right, what's line you see, Taylor?
Instantly, I'm just gonna activate Marlin port side and draw the arrow that I need.
All right, Ben, what is the line that you see here?
Able to show.
Oh,
But
Oh
we
yeah,
lost
sorry,
the
one more
share
time.
screen.
it's all good.
Here, I got you. 1 second.
Sorry, I break everything.
No, you're good. You're good. A little janky. Okay, cool. Everyone see it now? All right.
So the line I see here is a little. I'm looking at my hand and I have a murder travel.
Mhm.
What I'm actually looking to do here is send the murder travel to get information about what's on. If I have an arrow on top of my deck, I get to go activate cannon, pitching, shifting tides, blind port side to load the arrow and send it. That's at least what I'm looking at here. Kind of in the same vein, it gives me the capacity if I just need to take a kind of Warmonger's Peace turn and just play out 2 copies of Shifting Tides and Arsenal port side exchange. Or if I just like the card that's on top of my deck in my arsenal a little bit better, I might cycle the port side using the gold.
I actually like that line a lot.
The only difference here, I see that we have takings in the graveyard in this particular scenario. My big question would be, we have what? We have 24 cards left in deck. We have 4 cards, 28. So we're into second cycle. At this point, this is going to be shifting tide. Shifting tides pitched a port side. Shifting tides pitched a murderous rabble. You would know to some extent how close you are to another arrow, or how many arrows have already been out. So that might, at a kind of more micro level, impact my play decision here. But I don't think I'm ever port siding away a card to play out a Goldfin Harpoon, unless my opponent is so low on life that I'm able to go like Rabble for 3 into Goldfin power for basically lethal.
I think that's fair. I actually really like that you're like playing the Murders Rabble first to get a look
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
top. Like I think that's actually a really good line that I didn't see when I
agree.
I initially played this.
Mhm.
But yeah, kind of goes to show, I guess, a little bit more of the complexity of the deck. Again, a lot of lists aren't even running Murders Rabble anymore, so like, I don't know. I'm still a little bit partial to the card. I think
I am.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah, I am. What the hell?
Okay,
What
okay,
the hell?
we're all running Murders Rabble. That's great. I know
So-
Chandler at least wasn't, right? I think.
No, he was.
Was he?
I think he was.
He was not. He cut it to fit in burdens or something. But yeah.
Wow. Never meet your heroes.
Yeah. I think Murders Rabble is still really good, but yeah, I guess there's like, I don't know.
How else
I
are you
can't
supposed to kill
imagine cutting
Polly?
it. Sorry, what'd you say?
How else are you supposed to kill Polly?
True. I think Taylor or I think Chandler actually mentioned that he was like not respecting Kasai and what's her name? God, I can't remember. Puppet. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah. Anyways, I think Murderous Rebel's still really good. But actually, kind of a cool puzzle that I think was like different, like the play that I saw. But I think like the Murderous Rebel play, I think is actually really good. Cool. Let's move on to. I think we have like maybe 1 or 2 more. But yeah, this one I think is another Shifting Tides line. So, or not a Shifting Tides line, but I think there's a lot of options, or we could consider playing out Shifting Tides. I think that so we have a 4-card hand. We have 1 gold. We obviously are probably going to want to try to crack that gold to try to load our King Shark. But is this a hand that actually wants to try to play out the Shifting Tides? Depends on the deck that we're playing against. But we also maybe have the option for if we get like a blue off the top or yellow or whatever, maybe we just end up arsenaling whatever we draw or one of the cards in hand. What do y'all think?
Depending on like the deck, I'll probably pitch like a red fin or the blue fin, and then if I draw yellow or blue, I'll actively play out the Shifting Tides, and then I would throw the King Shark. Now, if I'm playing against a really defensive deck, there is a really good lesson here where you pitch the Shifting Tides and you just try to put an arrow back into your arsenal, like the red fin or the blue fin. But if it's a deck with like low armor or a deck that I think that I'm gonna get the Go Fish trigger on, I'll actively play out the Shifting Tide and make sure I have a goal for the next turn to play a larger hand.
think that's pretty reasonable. So here's, I guess, a question, or maybe a topic that I think we've talked about before. But like, when are you basically looking to play out shifting tides, or like what kind of scenarios? Because I think that there's maybe like a trap here in the sense that like if we go to 0 gold, we have shifting tides out. Um, that's kind of potentially risky, right? Because we don't know if we're going to draw that way to load, right?
Mhm.
Maybe the safer line in that scenario, if we are playing against like a more defensive deck, is we want to try to arsenal like a blue arrow or something that we can just send damage next turn. Um, any
Yeah.
other kind of thoughts?
Yeah, basically, you almost always are going to prioritize shifting over an arsenal as long as you have gold.
Yeah,
If you don't have gold, then it should flip flop because you want to make sure you can shoot every turn. That's always going to be the primary mission of our deck.
Mhm.
for sure. So I think again, this is another kind of one of those Marlin hands. I think is very contextual based on like who you're playing against, how likely you are to make gold if that hits, and then like it's kind of like what the rest of your deck is as well. But I think overall, just kind of like an interesting choice here between arsenaling the shifting tides or just arsenaling like or not arsenaling the shifting tides. Sorry, playing out the shifting tides or arsenaling one of your kind of harpoons.
Yeah. Yeah.
And let me see. So it looks like okay, I put together one last one, at least for shifting tides. So again, another kind of similar scenario. Ignore the deck count because I think I was just kind of gold fishing for interesting hands. But it looks like we have maybe like shifting tides, murder travel, gold to tip, and port side. What do you all see as the line here?
It's the same as before, kind of. So like Ben's Murderous Rebel does stuff, which I like if you want to go that route, which is pretty good. But in general here, this is just a blind port side with a gold to tip for me.
Are you
Yeah.
thinking like a goldfin harpoon first? Or are you just trying to find something off the top?
I'm just pitching to Hammerhead, playing gold to tip, and then port siding and going from there.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Um,
Yeah.
it seems reasonable, especially if you like maybe know what the remainder of your deck is. If you're like high chance to hit an arrow, I think it's pretty reasonable.
The deck count is set up so that you should hit it every 6 cards. You should hit an arrow unless you know, okay, this game I drew this many in this time or whatever. So if you do that blind port side, you miss, you can still crack the gold to go for it again. Plus you have hits that are like 3-oak and codex, etc., etc. So
Yeah. I feel like I don't blind port side often with this deck, but I feel like a lot of these scenarios are actually maybe ones you want to kind of look out for. Like getting port side draw a card is actually kind of nasty. Um, I think that line's pretty cool. And then I think that's pretty much the last puzzle. Actually, I think Nate, you posted maybe another one. Um, was it in fish posting?
yeah, I only had one replay, but I went through it and saw something that looked interesting.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I go ahead and bring this one. All right, so this is
Yeah,
gonna be the last
another
puzzle.
shifting puzzle.
Yeah. Let me see if I can zoom in on this a little. Okay, cool.
Cool.
All right, looks like we have maybe one more. Let me see if I can display this. 1 second here. That looks pretty good. Okay. All right, so the last puzzle is again from Nate, so thank you for the puzzle here. So it looks like it's maybe another Shifting Tides puzzle. We have, looks like Murderous Rabble, Shifting Tides, 3-oak, and a Portside Exchange, and maybe this is like turn 2 by the looks of it. Walk us through, I guess, this puzzle, and I guess our opponent has 2 cards in hand. Is this like a blocking puzzle, or is this kind of interesting?
So I think that this was more about your opponent is specifically Huntsman, and how does that change what you want to do with these cards in your hand, right?
Okay,
Because you could take, optimal lines against aggro, but you know that you have to preserve cards in deck
right.
against a Huntsman, for instance. So how do you want to block and play the hand, like, with that in mind?
Ah, okay, I see. This is kind of interesting.
I mean, I know it's incorrect, but I prefer not to block.
Yeah. Or are we blocking or do we have a tempo in this hand? Or like, are we active player?
They
Yeah.
should be active player in this shot because it looks
Okay.
like we just shot Kraken. They defended, so they have 2 cards. They're gonna
Okay.
play that thing, and in theory, we actually do know those cards because we just shot them with a Kraken.
Oh, I see. Okay, I get it now. So it looks like they just have a sack the scholars or
Play the scholars.
slay
Yeah.
the scholars. In a sigil, we have a bunch of cards in hand. Okay, so we're defending, and then we want to try set up for a turn next turn.
Well, we could, like Taylor said,
Could also
to
just
slay
not
the
block.
scholars, you can no block this 100%.
No blocks.
I think I'm no blocking this. I don't see any real compelling. Like, I feel like our hand converts pretty well, right? Like we
Yeah.
can port side, refresh the goal. Like I don't even know if we need to port side though. That's
I would not port side
yeah. I don't think I would.
against this hero
Yeah.
in this spot.
I feel like
It just deletes a card.
yeah. I feel like my immediate thought is we play out the murder scrabble because that's like the card that most often like converts into like real actual value. And I'm thinking if we are actually supposed to play the shifting tides here.
What do you think, Ben?
Hmm. So if I'm the active player here, I'm probably gonna end up playing out the shifting tides. In here.
You also play out the murder scrabble.
I like chain starting on Murderous Rabble. Partially because if they're on something like Hunter or if they're this one's actually weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel okay. I feel like my line is maybe just play out murder scrabble, see what's on top. Maybe that informs the draw. It informs the rest of the hand. But I feel like more often than not, I'm probably just playing out shifting tides because that lets us keep tempo into the next turn. And if I am able to get a hammerhead when I otherwise wouldn't, I feel like that's worth maybe playing the card shifting tides out. And then I'm pitching port side to 3. I feel like that's the line I see. What do you all think?
I like it.
Yeah. And then hopefully we hit an arrow off the top. I guess there is a risk that we don't hit an arrow though. I think I'm not making Gulf into the spot, especially if we've only seen like one harpoon.
Yeah. I agree.
Maybe it depends on how many harpoons are left.
You're always hitting an arrow here.
I believe.
Any other thoughts?
I believe the way I actually played this out is I didn't play out shifting or murderous, and I just pitched to 3 of a kind. Because both shifting and murderous, in second cycle are worth a guaranteed amount of value against him, and there are also cards that like can get hunter or hunted, but aren't my cards that I really want to preserve. So I just ended up shooting an 8 or a 10 or whatever I hit off of the 3 of a kind and kept these things in deck/hand or whatever instead of running them out like I would in almost any other matchup.
Okay, interesting. I feel like if you are sandbagging a blue, you can also activate. I guess it's a little early activate quiver. So
So I'll never activate Quiver except for its effect. I will never use it to filter. I will not shuffle my deck. That's like I won't even bring it into some matchups because then I might get tempted to shuffle my deck.
gotcha.
But against him, you'd use it to try to scam Hunter or Hunted, obviously, so that would be a reason for holding the Quiver.
Makes sense. Makes sense. If you do get a hunter or hunter in the next hand, are you shuffling even if you only have like one arrow to bin?
Yes, to stop a Hunter or Hunted because it denies them the value from the silver.
Yeah.
And the banish in addition to just getting me, only one arrow back, for instance.
Yeah. I think I would probably do the same in that scenario. All right, but yeah, that was a pretty cool puzzle. So I think that pretty much wraps it up. Well, anyways, thank you again for stopping by and for, I guess, the latest installment of the Marlin Council. Again, thank you, Ben, Taylor, and Nate for joining. And also just congrats on, I I guess all the progress. I feel like we made like so much progress on the deck since Pen came out, and I don't know. I feel like we put a ton of work into the deck, and I feel like it's actually starting to kind of pay off now, which is awesome.
Oh, finally, right?
I know.
Holy.
Probably what, several thousand games probably between us, maybe
Yeah.
more.
Between Nate, yeah.
Yeah, between Nate typically. But yeah, just any closing thoughts, I guess, on Marlin, the deck in general. Any socials or things you want to shout out?
No.
No.
I love Marlin.
I love Marlin.
Yeah,
Free
yeah.
tech.
Yeah.
What'd you say? Free tech?
I think he said me too, but
Oh, me too? Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, fair enough. All right. Well, anyways, thank you again for stopping by, and I hope you all enjoyed the last episode of the Marlin Council. Again, we'll maybe try to do another one of these, maybe once we have like a couple more developments of the deck. But I think there's been, a lot of progress since Pen released, so it's kind of cool to do a little bit of a recap on that. But anyways, thank you all for stopping by. Hope you all enjoyed, and we'll see y'all next time. And a special thank you to all the folks who decided it would be a good idea to give us $2 on Patreon. We really appreciate the support, but it's obviously never required.